Please welcome to the stage President and CEO of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce, Patrick Sullivan.
Good boy. Everybody gets a lunch. There we go. Well, good afternoon now, everyone. Lovely to see you all. My name is Patrick Sullivan. I'm the president and CEO of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. Sorry, I'm just holding here. And welcome to the Halifax Chamber's Surge event on accessibility readiness in the workplace. I want to extend a special welcome to the folks attending from the Atlantic Chamber of Commerce conference that's happening downstairs. Welcome to you all. Pleased to have you all here from all over Atlantic Canada and even destinations as far away as Ottawa. So great to see you all. You may have noticed that I brought a friend with me on stage here. I think he's being a good friend. Yes. Anyway, this is my friend Zeus. Zeus is a guide dog in training with CNIB, so the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. My wife Patty and I are volunteer puppy raisers, although I will admit, my wife Patty does most of the work. And we have the pleasure of having Zeus with us at home right now. We've raised 4 guide dogs, 2 of whom have gone on to become guide dogs. I guess guide dogs in training, and 2 have gone on to become guide dogs in training. Sorry, guide dogs. Sorry, he's confusing me. Um, anyway, they're all great dogs. They're lovely dogs. Oh, and he's bored already. So he's like most of the people when I give a speech. Um, down, down. Yes, he does. Zeus, down. Who's training who? Yeah. Well, he's not getting one until he actually lays down. So we'll just see who wins this one. Anyway, Zeus provides a great service to someone living with low vision, helping them to live their lives fully, doing errands, getting to and from work, and moving around their living space. Zeus is a great example of accessibility in action. And if you like this idea, you too can become a guide dog puppy raiser. This is the pitch. So if you have an interest in doing this and having one of these lovely dogs live with you at home for about a year, then you can see me after this event. Or we have Rachel here from CNIB. Rachel, you want to raise a hand? There we go. And she can talk to you about it as well. You can also find information on the CNIB website. Just click on Guide Dogs. So, lots of things to do, lots of examples of accessibility, I think, that we're going to hear about today. Thank you very much for your indulgence and for helping Zeus to be a mostly good boy. Now, let me welcome Joanne Bernard, President and CEO of Easter Seals, Nova Scotia, and a tireless advocate for accessibility in our province, and our Vice Chair at the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. Zeus. Joanne, up to you. Okay, super. Next that. Here we go. This way. Come on. Here we go.
Well, thank you, Patrick and Zeus. I've never quite had a welcome like that, but some dog whistles sometimes. But other than that, no, not really. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Surge event, the Halifax Chamber's DEAI and Community Initiative. And today's topic is something that's very close to my heart: accessibility readiness for organizations. So I'm just going to describe myself for a minute. I'm about 5'3". I have a little bit of gray in my hair, mostly from 4 years in government. And I'm wearing red because today is Red Shirt Day, black pants, and lots of beautiful jewelry that I get locally because I believe in buying local. So it's my pleasure to be here on behalf of the Board of Chambers. And before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that all of us are here on Mi'kma'ki, the unceded, unsurrendered unsurrendered and ancestral lands of the Mi'kmaq people, and it's my duty as a settler to work on indigenizing my own practices and my organization's practices. As many of us in the room are settlers in this land, we need to read, understand, and act on the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Report and the treaties that cover this land because we are all treaty people. And I'd also like to acknowledge that for over 400 years, African Nova Scotian communities have been significantly impacting and shaping the cultural, economic, educational, and artistic landscape of this province. So I'd like to thank our sponsors for today, our presenting sponsor, which is TD Insurance, our advocate partners, Dalhousie University Faculty of Management, and the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors. And our event partners are CPHR Nova Scotia and the Atlantic Chamber of Commerce. So for those visiting from the Atlantic Chamber of Commerce, welcome. Oh, they wrote that there for me, so I'll just skip that part, but I truly welcome. Is it you? Is it you people? No? Oh, okay. Welcome. Welcome. I am pleased to welcome everybody here, especially today, May 29th, is Easter Seals Red Shirt Day. And I can see a few red shirts out in the audience, but for those of you who don't know, we wear red today to show our support for Canadians living with disabilities and to pledge that we will do our part to help build a more accessible and inclusive Canada for people of all abilities. It's also National Accessibility Week, which started on May 26th and runs until June 1st. Accessibility has been a passion of mine for a long time. As Minister of Community Services from 2013 to 2017, thus the gray hair, it was my responsibility to bring in accessibility legislation, which was passed in late 2017. Nova Scotia was the third province to enact legislation focused on accessibility. And since then, I've been lucky to work with so many individuals and organizations working on accessibility in our province, including the Accessibility Directorate, which was tasked with meeting the goals set by the Accessibility Act. Fun fact, Kevin Murphy, who's here today, and I confirmed this earlier, Kevin was one of my uh, colleagues in government. I believe you were the first speaker of a legislative assembly in North America living with a disability, a physical disability. And because of that, the oldest legislature in North America had to be adapted to fit Kevin's needs, and it was. I also want to say that Kevin was asked many times to run in 2013 and would only run if Accessibility Act legislatively would be put on the platform and put in my mandate. Well, we didn't know it was going to be my mandate letter, but the community services mandate letter, and brought in by the end of the first term, which it was. So Kevin has been far greater advocate than certainly myself, but really is responsible for opening the conversation in coordination with the wonderful community advocates that have been doing it, quite frankly, for years. The Act set the goal for Nova Scotia to become barrier free by 2030. You may have heard the news recently that the framing of this deadline has shifted. The province now says that they intend to have standards and enforcement set by 2030, but that Nova Scotia is not likely to meet the goal of becoming completely accessible and barrier-free by that time. And I know that that caused a lot of discourse and disappointment and anger in some forums that I've been watching. But as the former minister, I have to really applaud the director. It is being run by Don Stegan, who you'll hear today, but there are amazing people within the directorate, within the Department of Justice, and within all government departments that have not, regardless of who is premier of this province, taken their foot off the pedal. It is full steam ahead. It is not just up to government to make this province accessible. It is up to each of us. It is up to universities. It is up to businesses. It is up to libraries. It is up to municipalities. It is up to all of us. The um, the standards will be in place, and it is up to us to make sure that we do that in our own sphere of influence so that we're all accessible in a reasonable amount of time. 2030, as you know, has become more of an aspirational goal. But that does not take away from any of the progress that has been made already. I can't stress that enough. It doesn't take away from the sense of growing momentum in our community, and it doesn't take away how important it is for local businesses and organizations to still reach and meet this goal. Accessibility may be law, but it is still also the right thing to do. Absolutely. And you cannot legislate common sense. It is just the right thing to do. As soon as you can do it, do it. It benefits you and your business to provide the inclusive environment for your team and your customers. The definition of accessibility is a lot broader than what we think. It goes beyond the typical representations of someone in a wheelchair or someone using Braille. It's creating a welcoming environment for everyone and making sure they can participate fully in community, in work, and in life. And we've all experienced some kind of moment when we needed accessibility in our lives. Maybe you didn't quite catch the last sentence the speaker said at the event. No problem, the closed captions will capture it for you. Or maybe you're on crutches due to an ankle injury or a sprain and you're not able to get around as usual. No problem, the building you're in is equipped with automated doors so that you can come right in. When we make a location or an event accessible, it makes it better for everyone, not just the folks with disabilities. The latest Statistics Canada figures from 2022 show that 27% of Canadians aged 15 or older had at least one disability. They've identified that. That's 8 million people in Canada. Here in Nova Scotia, we have the highest disability rate at 37.9% in the country. Everyone deserves to be included and like they belong and feel like they belong, especially in our province where we pride ourselves in maritime hospitality. And today we've gathered a group of experts in this field who will discuss what you can do as both an individual and an organization to make your spaces and offering accessible. On a housekeeping note, I want you to feel comfortable to move around the room today, leave or take a break as needed. The bathrooms are located on the outside of the room. Furthest the left is the accessible and gender neutral bathroom. The women's bathrooms are on the left and the men's are on the right. It is now my pleasure to welcome our presenting partner from TD Insurance, Pratoy Chakraborty, to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Joanne. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. Before I get started, I just want to give a little bit of visual description of myself. I'm 6 feet, 6.5, if you want to call it. That's fine. 6 feet tall, darker complexion, dark hair, um, dark eyes. I'm wearing a red suit. Thanks, Easter Seals Day. So I thought I should do that. And yeah, so I will start.
Really nice shoes.
Oh, thank you. Yes, appreciate it. Again, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Pratoy Chakraborty, and on behalf of TD Insurance, we are thrilled to be the presenting partner of the Surge Workshop Series. We are immensely proud of the partnership we have developed with the Halifax Chamber of Commerce for the past 19 years. And I want to thank the Chamber for organizing such a great event, and I'm confident that we will walk away today with a clear vision on our journey on accessibility and inclusion. As part of TD Brand Group, TD Insurance has a long-standing commitment to enriching the lives of our customers, colleagues, and communities. We know that people are the key to our success, and we view diversity, equity, and inclusion as part of our fundamental values that help support our purpose. In 2018, we launched the TD Ready Commitment to help create an environment where everyone has a chance to succeed in a changing world. The TD Ready commitment brings our philanthropy, people, and business together simultaneously. TD is targeting to donate $1 billion by 2030 towards community giving in areas that support change, nurture progress, and contribute to making the world a better, more inclusive place with a focus on creating positive change for a more sustainable tomorrow. And that's why we are proud to support organizations like the Chamber that also nurtures progress and provides opportunities for everyone to thrive and succeed in an evolving world. Our TD Insurance Malashmonic's home and auto insurance program also helps promote the Chamber's programs and initiatives by supporting events such as the Surge Workshop Series. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Chamber for their continued support and the organizers, volunteers, and guest speakers for making this event an enormous success. Without further ado, it's my pleasure now to welcome Jen Popke, Diversity and Inclusion Talent Partner, Focus on People with Disability with the TD Bank Group, to say a few words about her role and introduce the fellow panelists that she's going to be joining on the stage today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Can I tell you how much I love the accessibility that's showing in this room right now? It's wonderful. I'll give a visual description of myself, but just to showcase, we have live interpreters here. This is fantastic. We've got picture in picture. So those who are joining the live stream or want to see the YouTube later, they'll be able to see that accessibly. We have captioning at the top of the screen, so it doesn't matter where you are in the room, you can see the captions. If you miss a word, it doesn't matter if you're in the front or the back of the room. And we've got fantastic speakers here who are also giving their visual descriptions. I can share mine. Thanks so much. I'm Jen Popke with TD Bank, a cisgender white female, long light brown hair, blue eyes, and wearing a gray suit TD pin. And I apologize for not wearing red. I don't own a lot of it, but I absolutely celebrate the week and the day with Easter Seals. TD's had a long a partnership and a lot of work that we've done with Easter Seals over the years. Thrilled that you're all choosing. You're all very, very busy. You're running many organizations across many provinces, and you're choosing to share your time here. I can't tell you how grateful I am for that. It's showing your priority again and seeing your inclusive mindset matters so much. It's always great to return to Halifax. I'm actually from Ontario. Sorry for that. But absolutely love coming here anytime. And we've got a recent link that TD has done with some students in the Halifax area very recently. It's incredibly proud of that. So a little bit about me. Why is this cisgendered white woman up at the front talking about disability? We know absolutely, to Joanne's point, 27% of Canadians identify as with a disability, at least one. I'm part of that. I have a non-apparent disability. More than 70% of people with disabilities are non-apparent or invisible. You might hear that term as well. You can't tell. But the way you design your work and your office and your space and your customer service makes such a difference to help include more people. I only really started to talk about that aspect even 5 years ago at work, even though I've been with TD for 17. I actually joined the bank in a role similar to our interpreters here as staff sign language interpreter. TD has quite a few deaf employees, so it actually made for a better experience, more inclusive, and frankly, a cost savings, which a bank's always looking for, to have a staff interpreter. So I started that role in 2006 and was in that for 12 years before I came into my current role, which is working with our diversity sourcing team. So what the heck does that mean? I lead the PWD, or Persons with Disabilities pillar, nationwide to find great candidates who want to grow their career with TD. So I've been in the disability space. I've been an interpreter for 23 years. Family connection my entire life with disability, including with my dad, who had polio as an infant, and that's just always been part of our lives. And I've also been where I live actually is Guelph, Ontario. I was chair of the Accessibility Advisory Committee there and a member of that committee for 10 years. You had to max out at 10 years. I've been able to rejoin that. I have two amazing sons. I'm now the shortest person in my family. And my younger son, who's amazing and so smart, he has four non-apparent disabilities, one being having autism. And he's just awesome. So between work and volunteer and family and personal experience, hopefully that gives me some street cred here, but it also really gives me a personal connection as to why it was worth the flight to come here. So if I could, and I really want to be brief because it's the conversation that matters here. Just wanted to set the table. You'll hear the word disability a lot. Disability is not a bad word. So it's okay to use it. It's okay to say it. We're going to really push to move away from handicapped. That's great for your golf game, not for our folks with us. If you have a washroom, it's not the handicapped washroom, it's the accessible washroom because the person who's using it, that's the one that's accessible. It's not for those people. Same thing with accessible parking. You could have a shopping mall and only 4 accessible spots. So we're going to hear about disability, persons with disability. Some people in the community say that they're disabled. All is fine. I go with what that person says and respect that choice. We already know it's the largest community in the world. It's also, sorry, it is the largest minority in the world. There's over 1 billion people. I hear ranges, and Kevin and Joanne would have better stats on this. I see from World Health Organization, they say 1.3 billion. Others, I see 1.6 billion people have disabilities. It's an unheard community, but certainly not small. It's also the most intersectional, and it's also the only one that anyone can join at any time. So thank you for coming to the party early. We need you. So Pertoy has already wonderfully talked about our commitment to disability. The fact that I was able to even be in my role in 2006 and I was the second interpreter. We've had an interpreter in that role since 2005. Disability and the people with disabilities has been one of our diversity pillars since 2005. So to see that inclusion every day is fantastic. And the one that I'm really proud of, and I see Scott Grant here as well, who I get to work with and have worked with every week since 2021. We've been able to develop internships for students with disabilities. These are competitive. They're not the benevolence, the charities, the tokenism roles, and they're not data entry or cleaning the kitchen roles. Competitive roles that we looked specifically for students with disabilities. We went to accessibility services offices to find them and really say, we want you. It wasn't a statement at the bottom to say, we celebrate diversity and blah, blah, blah. You can try too. We wanted to say, we want you, we see your strengths. And actually 2 students have been here from Dalhousie. So shout out to Halifax. You have fantastic students and the program there for accessibility is amazing. And by the way, if anybody's chatting with Jen Davis, please shout out to her. She's incredible. And one has actually already done a few internships with us and is now working with us full time as an actuarial. And when she did her final exams, 5.0 GPA, amazing. So when we're going to also talk about accessibility today. I'm being quick because again, I want to get to that conversation. When we're talking about accessibility, the way I see it is taking a social model of disability. There's a medical model, somebody's broken, doctor sees a broken arm, wants to fix it, and off you go. People, and we talk about situational, temporary, and permanent disabilities. So if we're looking more at those with permanent disabilities, if we look at the social model of disability, it's not that the person is broken. That's nonsense. It's just a different way of a lived experience for somebody who has a ton of inherent value and who brings strengths with them through that lived experience. So with the social model of disability, it's looking at the things around the person. It's not about a broken arm. It's how are we setting up the communications like this? It's amazing. Are we designing to include or exclude? So are we looking at the communication, the technology, the environment, and including the social attitudes around the person? Is that what is disabling or enabling the person to be able to not only participate as an end user or a patient, but to be able to contribute to the story? So I could go on clearly about this for a while, but I want to hear from my fellow panelists. So I'd like to invite some fantastic people up to the stage, and I have the paper here because out of respect, I want to get it absolutely right. I'd like to first invite up Kevin Murphy, Director, Disability Inclusion, Office of the Minister of Diversity, Inclusion, and Persons with Disabilities with the Government of Canada. Thank you so much. Awesome. And next, I'd like to invite up Pratibha Popat. Thank you. With Employer Services Manager with Teamworks Cooperative. And I'd also like to invite up Dawn Stegan, Executive Director of the Accessibility Directorate with the Government of Nova Scotia. Thank you.
Do you need to speak? You can sit with.
Oh,
Don't.
oh.
I think they're bringing it up.
Is it yours? I'm not sure. Yep. Let's see. Yep.
Thank you, Jen.
I don't know how to fix the mic, Ryan. I'm getting feedback. Sorry.
That's okay. Is
Let's
this
see.
on? Can you hear me?
Okay. Sorry, musical chairs, everyone. I'm not sure if that mic might still be on. Can I just unplug this one, Ryan? My apologies. Okay. Okay.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, Jen. Welcome, Kevin. And welcome, Pratiba. And of course, Dawn. So we're going to start with Dawn. We're nearly halfway to the 2030 target. I know you lived that for becoming an accessible province. What progress and achievements have we made so far in meeting that goal? And I know there's been many.
Yeah, thanks very much. Oh, so just doing my check on my sound. I do first want to do a shout out to some of the directorate staff that are here. So Terry Lynn Almeida, our director, Maddie Adams, leading the built environment work, and Amy Middleton, our director of policy and standards. And so thank you for inviting us to be here today and with the other panel members on this important conversation on accessibility. And just at a few times, I'll go refer to my notes just to make sure that I'm still keeping track, because there's lots of progress and there's 6 priority areas that I want to tell you about. So Access by Design 2030 is the implementation strategy that we're using as our roadmap to achieve the obligations in the Accessibility Act. And it identified 6 priority areas. And those areas are definitely at play, and we are making very good progress, but we can always do more. And so I just want to give you some highlights from the 6 areas. So the first area and priority area is the development of standards or regulations. And so just to give a bit of context, the act that was passed, which Kevin and Joanne were involved with, is prescriptive, it's enabling, it's broad-reaching legislation, and it's a great piece of legislation that tells us specific actions to follow and also what we need to develop. A context about the standards as I describe them is there's a phase where recommendations are developed for government to consider, and that's done by people with disabilities, by disability organizations, impacted sectors like businesses and municipalities, with government before we begin working on drafting the standard. And there is 3 phases of consultation throughout that entire process that we need to do. Why I raise that is when I give you the update, there are opportunities for businesses or chamber members to be involved in those consultations that are still coming up. So to sort of pay attention to that, or how we get that message out to the chamber when those times come. So our first standard that will be enacted will be the Built Environment Standard. It's expected to be enacted this year. So we're very excited about that. The public consultation phase happened in August and September, and some of you may have provided us with feedback. The next standard area is education. And so that's about pre-primary, post-secondary institutions. It's about the educational experience, the teaching environment, and that is expected to be enacted in late 2025. So somewhere around early 2025, we will be posting for 60 days the draft standard for public feedback. So an important kind of milestone. The next standard that's at play is employment. So the board will be bringing forward this summer recommendations to the minister, and something to watch for. It's required under our act, but those recommendations with no edits made by government are required to be posted for the public to see them. And that's what we'll take to work on with other departments as we draft the employment standards. So again, watch for those recommendations to be posted this summer. Employment is an important one to those that are in it at this session. Goods and services, that's an active standard development committee.
And someone from the business community, Travis Gunn with Lawtons out of Pictou, is actually the vice chair of that committee. And they're working on having their recommendations, their draft recommendations available for public feedback sometime in early fall. So again, another opportunity to sort of give comments at the early stage. Then I just wanted to mention we have two other standard areas, and we had a great response to the call for membership for those committees. Both committees will report to the Accessibility Advisory Board, and that's a standard development committee for information and communication, and another one for public transportation. We expect that the membership of those committees will be announced by Minister this summer, and they'll begin their work this fall. So I also have talked about or mentioned the Accessibility Advisory Board a couple of times. I just want to acknowledge that Roz Penfound was the former chair of the board for 2 terms, and vice chair and then chair. And the new chair as of February is someone you may know, Max Chauvin, who is the director of housing and homelessness for Halifax, former general manager of the Sportsplex. So he is now the chair of the Accessibility Advisory Board. As Joanne mentioned, there was some interviews and some news last week. Part of it was the standards being delayed. What I can say is the development of regulations and that process that we must follow is complex, and to get it right, it does take time. But the original mapping for Access by Design 2030 had us having all 6 standards enacted by 2026. I'm confident that all 6 standards will be enacted somewhere between 2029 and 2030, each sort of a year apart from one another. So we're making very good progress there. I know I'm probably running out of time here. Okay, all right. The other thing that I just want to move into is that there are 5 other priority areas of Access by Design, and they're all very important and interconnected. And so access includes everyone. Did anybody pass our little booth as you came in? And that's the awareness campaign that was launched in 2022. It includes webinars and social media and posters and materials that you can access not just at our booth, but at an online resource hub. And so we encourage you to visit that. And you know, we all know accessibility is a human right. And in order to address accessibility, we can't just focus on legislation and laws. We need to focus on a culture shift, and that is about awareness and education. So this campaign and all the work that we do in developing training programs in partnership with others is very important. The next standard area that is fundamental is collaboration and partnerships, because we all have a role to play in accessibility, and that's what you were speaking about earlier in your presentation. We have several partnerships underway that are making really big differences, like a disability partnership forum for organizations across the province, as well as a new partnership with the Association of Municipal Administrators to support them with their accessibility plans and their new equity plans. We also have 107 prescribed public sector bodies under our regulation. So these are municipalities, the Nova Scotia Health, IWK, Crown corporations like Build Nova Scotia, etc. They're required to have accessibility plans, just like government, and have accessibility advisory committees. So that collaboration is so important. But I would encourage all of you to get connected to those accessibility advisory committees and leverage those opportunities. They're making great progress. So it's more than government. It's those of you that are in the room, but it's also these prescribed public sector bodies. We see the viewing deck at Peggy's Cove, the on-demand taxi service that's in Halifax. You know, it's really great progress. We recently had a review of our Accessibility Act, and it's required under our legislation. And one of the responses and recommendations from government after that review was completed is that we expand our collaboration work, and specifically with the business community. So we're excited to get that underway over the next 3 years and to be working with all the chambers across Nova Scotia. So moving on. 4th area of priority is evaluation. So we're obligated to report every year, and you can sort of check out those annual reports. But really, what really excites us is that ACT review. It was an independent review. It said we're making good progress. There's more to do. It gave us a number of recommendations 48 in fact, and we've come out with a response as of March, which gives us an implementation plan for 3 years. One of them is accelerate the standards, expand our collaboration. So we're excited about that, but also under evaluation, the first ever quality of life index for persons with disabilities is being developed in Nova Scotia in partnership with disability organizations led by the Nova Scotia League of Equal Opportunities. This is a groundbreaking piece of work that will really help us evaluate progress as we go forward. Our fifth area is compliance and enforcement. So in 2022, we had a compliance framework approved. At the heart of it is collaboration and education. The business community, along with persons with disabilities, were at the table as we developed that framework. And what we can say is that as we move forward with obligations and with standards, education and support will be at the heart of our work to ensure that everybody has the training and the tools needed to comply with the legislation. Our act contemplates fines when education and collaboration doesn't work. And of course, those regulations are on our to-do list for this year. Again, take a look at that framework on our website, and always we will focus on collaboration and support at the onset. Finally, the sixth priority areas, government leading by example. That's our sixth priority area. We've developed 2 multi-year accessibility plans. The first one in 2028 had 8 departments involved. It was a good plan. The 2022-2025 plan has 24 departments and 48 commitments. All government departments are making progress. And we see it. We see it in the mandatory training that's required for government employees, for the courses that are required by managers in government about inclusive workplaces. We see it in the legislature with interpretation, as well as the work that's happening with public housing, with campgrounds, with Moby mats on beaches, and the great work that Natural Resources and Renewables is doing. And of course, more services available for those with mental health disabilities across the province. So again, the list could go on, and where I would conclude is that being here today, the Chamber hosting this workshop, you taking the time to talk about accessibility, is progress and the momentum that we need in this province to be accessible. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Dawn. Thank you so much. And I just want to give a shout out to Carolyn and Julia, who are our ASL folks today, who are providing that service for us. I think as a province, we really noticed how important accessibility was during the COVID updates of Dr. Strang and at that time Premier McNeil, because it was closed captioned and there were ASL uh, services as well with every single public we used to call them updates, I guess, that for every day. And I think it was really appreciated, and it certainly gave pause to people to understand that that was a service that needed to be done in such a extraordinary circumstance as COVID. I'm going to go in order that I have here. So the next question is to Pratibha. Many persons with disabilities are employed in the private sector in Nova Scotia, and yet many still experience discrimination in the workplace. We hear about it every day at Easter Seals. How can the business community become a place where persons with disabilities are not only employed, but also valued and set up to succeed?
Thank you, Joanne, and good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today and to connect with everybody. It's so nice to see a full room of people here for the same reason, and that excites me. And you'll see that because I talk with my hands sometimes, so I'm just going to say that. As for my description, I'm a South Asian woman. My pronouns are she, her. I have shorter length black hair. I'm wearing glasses and a black and red outfit, and I think I'm the shortest one here because I'm 5 feet 2.5 inches. Um, so yeah, it's a really good question, and I had to. It didn't take much to go, okay, how am I going to answer this question? Because with Teamwork Cooperative, where I work, we help people find employment. A lot of our clients are people with disabilities, and that number is growing on a regular basis. And our team and our staff are experts in this area. So before 2017, Teamwork was known specifically to work with people with disabilities. After that, we were actually fell under the Nova Scotia Works umbrella, where we actually are serving everybody, not just people with disabilities, but we're still known for that expertise. So check us out on our website. Anyway, so I thought about how I'm going to answer this question, and I could say blurt out a bunch of things, but I want to approach this in a little bit of a different way. If you guys will have me do that, I invite you to go on a journey with me. So I know we've all had lunch for the next couple of minutes. So I want you to sit back. I want you to relax a little bit. And you can close your eyes if you wish, but I want us to reflect together. So, is everybody with me? Okay, awesome. Thank you. So, imagine it's a typical morning as you arrive at work. You park your car in your normal parking spot. As you walk from your car to your office, you take a moment to view this journey through the lens of a colleague or a customer with a disability. As you approach your office building, you first observe all the information signs, the various digital displays that are everywhere in buildings these days. You think, are they positioned at the right accessible height to someone maybe in a wheelchair or somebody with a shorter stance? Is the content available in formats that assist those with visual disabilities, such as Braille or large print? As you enter the building and walk on the various flooring surfaces, you consider their safety and functionality. You consider whether the floors provide sufficient traction to prevent slipping, which is crucial for those using walkers or wheelchairs or have balance issues, or even walking in high heels. You also note if the walkways are even and free of hazards that could pose challenges for somebody with a visual or mobility needs. Are the hallways wide enough to accommodate mobility devices comfortably? Are the doors accessible? If not, are they too heavy to push? You now enter your office. You make your way to the kitchen to pour yourself a hot cup of coffee. You reflect on the setup in there. Is the coffee station accessible? Are the appliances, the sink, the utensil holders, and all other consumables within easy reach for someone in a wheelchair, for somebody with a mobility issue? Are there tables with accessible seating options? And are these tables obstructed in any way by covered with boxes, wires? Are the cupboard doors shut so someone who is blind does not get hurt? Then you start to consider the accommodation for colleagues or customers who are deaf or blind or use noise canceling headphones. Are visual alert systems in place to supplement audio announcements? Is there a buddy system set up to alert them in case of an emergency? For people who are blind, are there tactile paths or cues that help them navigate from one area to another independently and safely? Or is there an evacuation plan for mobility device users? Finally, turning on your computer in your own personal office and opening a document, you question whether someone using a screen reader will be able to successfully access it and understand the content clearly. Throughout this walk, you realize how every element of your workplace can significantly impact the day-to-day experiences of your colleagues and customers with a disability. And you continue to reflect further on what you can do as an employer to make staff and customers with disabilities feel valued and to help them succeed. I want to acknowledge that other types of disabilities also require accommodation. And in the interest of time, I focused just on the one type. But I want you to think about a little bit, how did you feel as you were on this journey? I want everybody to kind of just step back for a couple of seconds and think about how that journey felt for you. Um, Maybe when you go back to your office, hopefully this will help you look at things in a proactive way of how you can make your office space a little bit more accessible for people with disabilities that are your colleagues or again your employers. To be proactive, you must make sure employees with a disability are part of all decisions, not just those affecting them directly. It's important to move from the concept of nothing about us without us, which focuses on including the voices of disabled people and decisions that affect them. It's important to move towards nothing without us approach, where everything is viewed through a disability lens. This will create a more inclusive and accessible environment where everyone feels valued and are set up for success. There are a number of organizations out there that you can reach out to help. You can reach out to Teamwork. We can help. We do wraparound supports for our clients and employers. So we have an employer engagement specialist, and we have case managers who work with clients. We look at the needs of both. We will also do a match. We can do job carving if that's required for a person with a disability. Um, and our staff are equipped and trained to do that. If we don't have the capacity, we'll reach out to our partners who will help you to do that as well. We have hundreds of success stories, which we don't have time to share today, but reach out to me for those. I can give you so many, and it's a passion of mine. I'm very grateful to be able to work for this organization and giving back to the people that really, are amazing people who want to work, who want to be given an opportunity. And it takes just sometimes that one opportunity and you see that the passion in people's eyes and they've finally got a job and they feel somebody is actually valuing them. But that proactivity, if you're able to provide that before somebody even comes into your space, that shows to them that you are an inclusive employer. You are open already. You're ready to go in and embrace it. Biggest thing that I find with people with disabilities is creating that trust. So putting it in your job description where, open to disability, hiring people with disabilities and so forth is great, but to show what you've done in your environment and so forth, for people to see that, it's going to create a whole new avenue of people who want to work with you and who want to succeed and feel like they're part of community. It's that accessibility, it's belonging. So we call our inclusion, diversity, inclusion. We call it DIVA. So diversity, inclusion, equity, accessibility, and belonging. So belonging is one of the biggest things that I'm finding right now. People want to feel like they belong. And how do you make a person with a disability feel like they belong? Is that they know that you're open, you're actively going to work with them, you will listen, you'll make things happen, and you will, if you don't have the information, you'll go out and find it. And yeah, so I think that's how I would
Thank,
answer that
thank
question.
you,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And there are lots and lots of organizations that are doing the work. Easter Seals does it as well. We have there's actually a collective that we've started in HRM of organizations that will work with employers who want to hire folks with disabilities. And it is wraparound services where they do come into your workplace. They'll help you with adaptations, they'll help you with changing the culture of your organization or your business, which is very important. When I came to Easter Seals in 2017, I was worried about the kids that were graduating to the coach because there were no opportunities for them after they got out of high school. Now I'm worried about the kids coming out of university who are graduating and not getting the careers that they've worked so hard for. And one young man last week said to me, "If I could just remain seated, before they come in and see that I have a disability, I think the interview would go better. But because he walks with a cane, and has mild CP, there is a bias that is attached to him intentionally or unintentionally. It really doesn't matter to him when he walks through the door. And he's a recent DAL graduate. I've interviewed 2 DAL graduates and 1 St. FX graduate in the last week who are having issues finding positions. Thank you so much for that. It's really important work. So, Kevin, entrepreneurship is a thriving area of employment for many people with disabilities in Nova Scotia. We see that. What can we do to support business owners who have disabilities?
Thanks for the question. And look, welcome everybody. This is a fantastic opportunity. And just to echo what's already been said, it's great to see that you've made the choice to come here today to learn more about your own journey, about how to improve your business, how to include people with disabilities, not only as employees internally, but to improve your business externally so that people with disabilities as customers feel welcome into your shop, your service, and to buy your products and your goods and that kind of stuff. So, entrepreneurship is something that's near and dear to my heart. I grew up in a small business family, and that was a career choice that my dad made. And I grew up literally in our family business, which is service stations. So at lunchtime, that's where we went. The school kids after school, that's where we went. That's where we spent our evenings and weekends and learned all about customer service. And I learned all about the simple principle that to become an entrepreneur, you get out of it exactly what you put into it. And it was a career choice that turned out very well for my family. And it was something that I kind of naturally gravitated towards after graduating from St. Mary's with a commerce degree. So at that time, I was freshly injured. I was injured in 1985 as a 14-year-old kid. And I wanted to find something that I was passionate about. I could be the poster boy for entrepreneurship for persons with disabilities. So after I graduated, one of the things that seemed to fit with me was entrepreneurship. I was familiar with it. I wanted to find something that the reward would correspond with the effort that I was going to put into it. But also, importantly, as a person with a significant mobility issue, find something that was within the realm of possibilities that I could do, that I could maintain that independence, that level of control. So entrepreneurship for me was something that checked all the boxes. It gave me the ability to manage my own schedule. It gave me the ability to be flexible for how I could achieve the task at hand. It gave me the ability to work around my limitations as a person with a mobility disability, and it turned out really well. So I engaged with my local business development organization. I signed up for the self-employment assistance program, which provided a little extra training and income. That program still exists out there. And at that time, I was able to take advantage of a government program, which no longer exists, sadly, but I would encourage you to use your levers to encourage your local elected representatives to bring back some programs to support entrepreneurs with disabilities. And what I used the small amount of funding for that was available at that time in around 1989-90 was to outfit my vehicle that I used to provide my mobile DJ service. And it was a bit of a unique career for somebody from a wheelchair, but I made a very good living for the better part of 20 years, providing music to all manner of events, weddings, community functions, etc. And I drove my wheelchair accessible van around, and I had equipment that was specially laid out, again, using some of that funding so that all the controls and everything, the collection of music was in the right spot for me to be able to be as independent as I possibly could doing that. And being that entrepreneur, I was able to work as hard and as long, the kinds of hours that I could put in, and it really fit with what I could do as a person with a disability. One of the silver linings, I think, that has emerged from the pandemic, I think that is no secret to any of us, is the kind of concept of finding a new way to work. Whether that's working remotely, that's the integration of technology into our everyday work lives. This has really opened the doors for people with disabilities to pursue things like entrepreneurship. Many of the IT innovations that we all enjoy, most of which we carry in the palm of our hand, have its roots in these IT companies trying to marry up technology with accessibility needs for people with disabilities. And now look at how those kinds of technologies have infiltrated our everyday lives. So when we look out at our audience today, a collection of business leaders in our communities across Atlantic Canada, when we look out at your role as business operators, as chamber members, as influencers in the community, if you have opportunities to develop mentorship programs within your chambers, within your business community for those budding entrepreneurs, those with disabilities and those without, reach out, make it known that somebody that you're aware of who has a disability, um, make them feel welcome, offer them a chance to shadow what you're doing in your business or in your chamber. Reach out to disability organizations in your community, in your areas, so that you can match up and marry up not only with the wraparound services that have been mentioned here today, but also those budding entrepreneurs themselves. Entrepreneurship is, for too long, been the rather poor cousin of the employment world. It's last to the table to be recognized by government as a legitimate kind of career choice when it comes to things like employment insurance. Think about your own experience as you look back and you've maybe tried your hand at entrepreneurship and hit a bump in the road or need that support, and you reach out to employment insurance only to find out that, oh, self-employment, it doesn't enable you to qualify for this program. So those are important things, and fostering that idea, that creative spark in somebody. That's what you look for in your employees to begin with, is you want to feed in, you want to energize them. And people with disabilities are no different, many of which are sitting on great ideas of innovation, because when you have a disability, whether it's a visual one or it's a hidden one, necessity is the mother of invention. And there's so many great ideas out there that people with disabilities have come up with to bridge the gap between whatever that challenge is to help them overcome it and get to the next step. So I encourage you to look in your own circles, to find those people in your community and do what you can to support them.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah. Jen, in your opening remarks, you touched about why TD is a compelling place for you to work in. But as a member of the TD's bank diversity sourcing team, which focuses on meeting and supporting candidates with disabilities to grow their careers, is there any advice that you could give business owners that are here today around strategies to best support the career development of their employees with disabilities?
Yes, and I could chat for a bit. So there's two aspects. One is the hiring, and the next is the career development. So can I touch briefly on both?
Yeah.
If that's all right, and I'll be quick. For the hiring, look at your job postings. Are we putting in wish list items, or the actual need to haves plus a few nice to haves for our requirements? How flexible are we for years of experience? Because there are fewer jobs in the market that are accessible. So that means for our colleagues who have disabilities or our candidates who have disabilities, they literally have fewer opportunities to gain that experience to show you their skill set. So years of experience is not the only marker to see someone's skill set. The other part is when you're writing in your job descriptions, please be clear in what the job is. I would even say that we're working on that to make it clearer so that, like, how would you describe what you do at a dinner party? That's a nice, succinct way to do an introduction of what you do, what's the point, what you're striving for, along with the requirements that you're looking for. And we know, you've probably heard, women self-select out more than men for job postings. People with disabilities, especially those who are neurodivergent, so autism, ADHD, etc., will self-select out even more than women, because many will see it as a checklist. Unless I can check every single box, I will not apply. So we're missing out on great talent because of how we've designed the job description. Now you've got somebody, you see their resume and they're looking pretty good. Okay, you want to give them a shot. So from there, one thing, and we were just chatting about this with some of our TD colleagues yesterday, when you're inviting somebody for interview, build the transparency by describing what the interview will look like. A lot of times we don't. We say, would you be available Tuesday at 10? We're busy and we know what it's going to look like, and we frankly don't have much to lose. For us, it's half an hour or 45 minutes to spend, and we're looking for that charismatic extrovert that is the interview, which is interview skills separate from job skills. We'll go on about that one for a minute. But if I can give a comparison, say you're trying to book an Airbnb and you know the location, you've got the dates, and you find a spot and it matches. The date looks good, the price looks good, the location, okay, this is good. And you click it, sorry, I'm signing. You open it up and there's no description there. You're like, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. And you click and you try to contact the host. And the host comes back with, would you like anything extra? Which is what we do when we don't give a description and ask about accommodations. Well, if you're looking, you're like, I don't know what is extra. Do you have Wi-Fi? Do you have a parking space? Do you have 2 towels or 4? I don't know, so I don't know what extra is. Again, that's what we do for our candidates when they're looking to apply, but we don't describe what the interview is going to look like. So, quick example instead, Scott, we'd love to invite you in for an interview. It will be with myself and one other manager. It'll run about 30 minutes with 3 probably skills-based questions at the beginning, 2 to 3 behavioral questions afterwards, and a chance for you to ask 1 or 2 questions at the end. Great. So if Scott is blind, and I make it virtual, and I'll say, by the way, that it can be audio or video as per your preference, because video is not always best, then he can say, okay, we're good. That sounds great. Look forward to it. If someone is deaf or hard of hearing, has a learning disability, they can say, great, could we use video? And then I'd love to find out about setting up the captioning. Now they can confidently advocate to be able to shine in the interview without saying, you might see me as a little bit broken, but I have a disability, which is a terrifying thing to share because you're giving all your power to the other person and you don't know if they have an open mind or not. And you're feeling like you have to say, but I'm good enough right away. Now compare that to the other one. And sometimes we set up interviews, especially if it can be high volume turnover, and we're looking for efficiency. We've had this in the past. I was able to advocate for someone. I was able to find out, so we were able to correct for. You'll be invited to come in with 5 hiring managers and 4 fellow candidates to do panel interviews, followed by a 10-minute computer assessment. Okay, the person who I was able to support for that, he was going to be great in this role, I could tell, but he also had anxiety. He shared that with me. And by the way, nobody actually ever has to share their label or diagnosis. That's not important. It's talking about the accommodations so that that person can shine. And accommodations, by the way, is a way of working around poor design. So he said anxiety, public speaking was not the way he was going to shine. So it was the structure of the interview that was the barrier. nothing else to talk about his job skills. So we were able to do one-on-one with him, and we brought him in. But if somebody is going to do a computer assessment and they're low vision or blind, okay, by us sharing that, now we can see, do we have the screen reader set up? Do we have Dolphin or JAWS or NVDA? Or do we really need the computer assessment for the interview? Or is that our teddy bear of reassurance that we hold on to because we've decided this is the system that we use to assess? So if nothing else, please, just when you're inviting people for interviews, please describe what the interview will look like and then say, I actually don't like using the word require a disability because it makes a person lesser than without it. They may feel that way. If you would benefit from an accommodation to fully participate in this interview, please let us know. And then it becomes a conversation. And we can be flexible in how we set up the interview. We can still be objective. The only other element to add to that is interview skills, as mentioned, are separate from job skills. Interviews, we teach interview skills, so it's less of a human conversation, but it's more of like a professional date, which is weird. So, and nowhere else in the world do we ask behavioral questions, a 3-part behavioral question, tell me about a time when, what did you do, and what were the impacts? And we assess someone's job suitability depending on how they answer this false kind of question. So be human. You can still ask the 3-part question. But if you need to reiterate that 3rd part because maybe the person is neurodivergent or just nervous, please don't mark it against them because what you're actually interviewing, what you're evaluating there are their interview skills, not what they could bring to your team. So then once you bring them in, it's creating that safe space on a daily basis through your leadership. So you don't have the days of saying, I know I was really fussy about that. I'm just having an OCD day. Can't do that. And we've got to call ourselves out and our peers out for that in a friendly way. I personally, if anybody says the word handicapped, I say accessible. If anybody says hearing impaired, I say deaf and hard of hearing. I actually interrupt in the conversation. That's my comfort level. It isn't for everybody, but we have to call that out because our colleagues with non-apparent disabilities, they see somebody say OCD and they go, this place isn't safe. I can't share. And they're too worried to share anything because they're worried about, and the word comes up is erosion. Erosion of brand, erosion of trust, erosion of career advancement and potential. So we create that psychologically safe space and that leadership and proactively talking about accessibility, as we've been hearing from our colleagues here, to earn the right and the privilege to hear from our colleagues. And then take a flexible approach to say, yep, that's a design problem. It's not a you thing. How can we redesign this so you can grow? And with those same high expectations, not that, oh, you have a disability, you're just grateful to have a job, so I'm going to keep you in that space and that job level for as many years as possible.
I'm going to stop you there,
Mhm.
Jen, because we're running over. And thank you. The great advice in there. We're going to have about 10 minutes of a table discussion. So there you have table leads at all of your tables that are going to start the discussion. And just talk about a little bit about in your sphere of influence that you have, what could you do to make your workplace or your organization more welcoming for persons with disabilities. We're going to put up some copies of questions on the screen. You have them on your tables. We'll come back in about 10 minutes and wrap up for the day. But I do want to thank Dawn and Jen and Pratibha and Kevin for coming up and sharing their lived experiences, their learned experiences, and their professional experiences. It's a conversation that could go on, quite frankly, for hours and hours. And so but it's always good to start it as long as it's started. So thank you, and have fulsome, informative conversations for the next few minutes, and then we'll be back.
Hello, I just wanted to say to the folks that have joined us online, so we have been broadcasting this so folks could see it online. Just want to say to the folks online, we're moving into table discussions now. So we will be shutting off the feed for those of you that have been watching us online. For those of you in the room, enjoy the table discussions.